What's going on, family? How is everybody doing? Please get your libations. I apologize for being late to the show tonight. I was in a we had a ADOS Advocacy Foundation meeting tonight, and it ran late. So I apologize, fam. My apologies. But guess what? I'm not gonna keep you long tonight. This is not one of those fervent debates that people like to have. This is not one of them. We get into the weeds of the thing, fam. That's what we do. But everybody, everybody ain't like us. That's all. Everybody don't do what we do. So I saw all of this, and please hit the like button, fam, and please subscribe. If you are here and you have not subscribed to the channel, please take the time to subscribe. If you don't like what you see, you don't like what you hear, you should reevaluate your life. But you can always unsubscribe. I don't know why you would. Let me tell y'all something. YouTube is turning something up and down. What's up, YouTube? Love YouTube. The first 2 minutes, love you. Because I swear I've been stuck at 84,000 for like 3 years. And the subscriber count keeps saying, you gain this many, but then it don't move. Ain't that something? But, fam, we're not going to even get into all of that today. You just get your libations and get ready to have the conversation we're going to have. Don't even worry your head. Don't even worry your head. Hit that like button for me, but don't worry yourself. And also, while I'm in the beginning of the show, those of you who have not gone to joinados.com, that's joinados.com, please go there and sign up. We have some big stuff happening with OMB, so please make sure if you have not gone there to do that, you go and do that, okay? Now listen, I know y'all saw it today. If you didn't see it, I understand. Some of this stuff don't get through because it'd be a lot of stuff going on. So it's been a lot of fighting. You have Republicans coming out and saying things like this. They say, we ain't do that. So you have to get to the bottom of it. They say, despite the lies from the Biden White House, Florida rejected an AP course filled with critical race theory and other obvious violations of Florida law. We proudly require the teaching of African American history. We do not accept woke indoctrination masquerading as education. Boy, he spoke a word. Now, look, though. Some stuff that was taken out, I agree. Some stuff I disagree now. But look, I want you to look at what he put with topic 4.30. All points and resources in the study, and advocate for reparations. That's 4.30. That is part of what was taken out, fam. Now, I have a problem with that part of it, because we're gonna have a conversation. I have a problem with that part of it, fam. In terms of what I know why you took that out, because it's hard to show people. There's a reason why Germany has it where they have it, where you got to teach this. You got to teach about the Nazi history. You got to teach about what happened. You got to teach about the Holocaust. There's a reason for that, because people need to learn. Germans need to learn. Oh, we did this. Our country did this. Oh, that's why we owe. That's why that you have to teach history. Wait. Okay, so we did that. We did that too. Oh, you can't say we did that to the babies. We sold the babies away. Okay, and then they built the country, and then they're still oppressed. Oh my goodness. So that has to be justice learning has to be a part of the reparations conversation, right? Because if you teach people about reparations, you teach them about justice. If you teach people about reparations, you teach them about Christianity. It's quiet as it's kept. People want to play Christian, right? If you teach people about reparations, justice, I always say this, justice is mentioned more in the Bible than love. People say, you just got to love. No. The Bible calls you to be just. The Bible says, if you taken something away, there's a part in Luke, I think it's Luke 19, say, if I have taken away, God, if I have taken away something away from this man, I give it back fourfold. Where my fake Christians at? I got you. That's a part of it. So I have a problem with that. And then I wondered to myself, I said, how do we get here? Because it's always a great question to ask. How do we get to this point where reparations is also included with a lot of stuff that I don't feel like it should be included with? Because you're saying you don't, and I understand if you're just going to teach about Ta-Nehisi Coates, even though I think that article was a very good article. I've never seen anybody get that famous off of one article and just ride it. I ain't never seen that. But very good article, The Case for Reparations, right? It didn't build the case for the reparations movement because it was 2014. The reparations movement came along with us. You can't just write an article and leave it and walk away. And Ta-Nehisi said, I'm not an advocate. I don't do advocacy. Right? He walked away, and then everybody get mad when somebody else walk up. Well, oh, shuck duck quack quack then. We're here. So you have to go all the way back. If you're teaching reparations, you have to go all the way back to Reconstruction, the 40 Acres of the Mule. That's Adolph's history. Beginning with the slaves and then their descendants. That's Adolph's. You have to teach that. But I'm wondering, how are you able to kind of get away with that? Like, how does it happen that you get away with kind of running away from that? And then I see some things. Because whenever you hear about something, fam, make this a habit. Whenever you hear about something happening over here, go back a few years. Go back a few years before the conversation changed. The greatest thing we have now is Google that allows us to go back. You can't go back way, way, way back 2002, but you can go back 4, 5, 10 years. Go back and look at it. And you start to understand, okay, now I see. Now I see how we got here. So I saw this up on somebody's Twitter talking about all of the people who are no longer being taught because of what this. Remember, y'all got to remember, and we're going to get to it. This kind of started with DeSantis objecting to the African American AP. That's where we start. And then the College Board is coming out and saying that they agree with some of that, right? And they're saying we're still teaching history. We're not teaching wokeism. We're not teaching ideology. We're just teaching the history. What happened to Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass. We're just teaching that. We're not teaching the other stuff, right? So that's where we are, fam. And we're going to get to some articles about that, but that's where we are. So somebody put this to show all of the people who have been taken out of the conversation. Now, I think some of those people should be in there, right? Some of them should not. It just is what it is. We saw a lot of black scholars chime in about what was happening. The contention that an AP curriculum in African American studies lacks educational value is a proposition supported by white supremacist ideology, and fundamentally demeans the history and culture of black people. Except that's not the whole of it. They didn't say that everything. They didn't say like that's a slip. That's a slip. Be very careful. If you don't be very careful, you'll be very dishonest. That's not what they said. They said something very specific. They said woke ideology. Now, some of that stuff was not woke. Some of that stuff was good learning. But some of it has become somewhat of a poison pill. So here's the article. The College Board strips down its AP curriculum. So let's see what this looks like. Everybody's telling us, and that's the way you read it online. It's just they're just taking away all of our history. Well, I believe this is a way to do that. This is a road to erasure, right? But that hasn't happened yet. But let's talk about how we got to that road. That is very, very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. After heavy criticism from Governor Ron DeSantis, the College Board released on Wednesday an official curriculum for its new advanced placement course in African American studies, stripped of much of the subject matter that had angered the governor and other conservatives. So some stuff got removed. What did it look like? The College Board purged the names of many black writers and scholars associated with critical race theory, the queer experience, and black feminism. It ushered out some politically fraught topics like Black Lives Matter from the formal curriculum. Now, I don't know, and if I'm wrong, y'all tell me I'm wrong. It's fine. I don't have no problem. I've been wrong before. I don't have no problem being wrong. I don't have no problem being a human person. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I don't understand why Black Lives Matter would be in the formal curriculum. I think Black Lives Matter became a slogan for people who were protesting around the world, right? But it was not a movement that people think it was. There was no leadership. The people who did Black Lives Matter and who deserve praise were not a part of the overall movement. And that's who y'all were probably giving credit to. And there was no bill, there was no legislation passed on behalf of the Black Lives Matter movement. So you tell me why it deserves credit. There were no marches designed and coordinated by the leaders of Black Lives Matter. As a matter of fact, we had a hard time figuring out who the leaders of Black Lives Matter were because they were playing a shell game. People would show up on TV, and then when you ask for accountability, they would say, we don't know what you're talking about. I don't really have any affiliation with Black Lives Matter anymore. So how come every time Black Lives Matter comes on or gets popular, you show up at a TV station? So you're telling me you don't have no relationship with Black Lives Matter, but every time it's time to talk about Black Lives Matter, you grab a microphone. Hey, you grab a microphone. Right? So I don't understand what's going on. So see, they have mixed up things, family. Please understand this. What's happening is things that should not be mixed together are being mixed together. History and this sort of Black Lives Matter thing that nobody still can tell where the money went. Where the money at? Right? You cannot, you're giving people bait who you shouldn't give bait. So now they can take away reparations from the conversation because y'all want to keep Black Lives Matter in the curriculum. They are giving people bait. Right? You're throwing chum into the water. That's what's happening. So let's go to the next page. Let's go to the next one. Black Lives Matter, child. What is it, child? The attack on the AP course turned out to be the prelude to a much larger agenda. On Tuesday, Governor DeSantis unveiled a proposal to overhaul higher education that would eliminate what he called ideological conformity by, among other things, mandating courses in Western civilization. In another red flag, the College Board faced the possibility of opposition. More than 24 states have adopted some sort of measure against critical race theory, according to a tracking project by the University of California, Los Angeles Law School. So y'all up against some stuff. I don't even know, whatever. We experimented with a lot of things, including assigning secondary sources, and we found a lot of issues arose as we did, Mr. Coleman said. I think what is most surprising and powerful for most people is looking directly at people's experience. That's interesting. The dispute over the AP course is about more than just the content of a high school class. Education is the center of much vitriolic partisan debate, and the College Board's decision to try to build a curriculum covering one of the most charged subjects in the country, the history of race in America, may have all but guaranteed controversy. If anything, the arguments over the curriculum underscore the fact that the United States is a country that cannot agree on its own story, especially complex history of Black Americans. Now, maybe that's true. And if that's true, that's a problem. Because what I find is something very different. I find that we can't even agree as Negroes on our own story. If we're talking about what is most important, now before I read this next thing, I want to put that right there. If we're talking about what is most important to us, why is reparations in the conversation with the rest of this stuff? Whether it's queer, whatever, woke, whatever. Why is reparations in the conversations with a whole bunch of other stuff that shouldn't be here? So I want you to put a pin in that, and we're gonna come back to it. In light of the politics of the College Board, the College Board seemed to opt out of the politics. In its revised 234-page curriculum framework, the continent of Africa, slavery, Reconstruction, and civil rights movement remains largely the same. That first line I don't understand. But the study of contemporary topics, including Black Lives Matter, incarceration, queer life, and the debate over reparations is downgraded. The subjects are no longer part of the exam and are simply offered on a list of options for a required research project. And even that list in a nod to local laws can be refined by local and state districts. Now, this is the first time we're having an African American AP. Y'all know that, right? Like this is the first ever, right? And DeSantis has said, I'm going to pare it down. He was able to pare down reparations, the most consequential thing that we deal with in life. The lack of wealth and redress in this country, multi-generation accrued disadvantage. He was able to pare that down because y'all threw a bunch of stuff in there about feminism and queer stuff. I'm just going to say it. Don't give people away. Don't give people a reason. Why are we lumped in there? See, there's a problem in academia. And listen, I have academics that I love. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm just, Yvette just throwing all academics under the book. No, but there is a problem. There seems to be some kind of insular thing going on where the thing that you think is most important to you and the people that you have dinner with, swirl champagne with, the people that you converse with, that this is the important thing. The most important thing to regular people is our lack of wealth. The most important thing to us is our lack of opportunity. Right? That's what's most important to us. What it seems like sometimes, and not everybody, but it seems like for too many of y'all, the most important thing, when I talk about y'all, I mean academics, is Boule. What it seems like is what's most important to y'all is putting forth a new theory. I have a new theory on feminism. I have a new theory on black queer life. Well, black queer life is just as broke as straight queer life. Black queer life didn't get a bunch of money. Like Adolf, and when I talk about Adolf's queer, it didn't get a bunch of money. So the thing that matters is still the thing that matters. The main thing is still the main thing. Don't try to chase white intellectuals and saying, well, yes, you're the queer. No, not the same. They all over there with wealth, with money. It's not the same. So if let me tell you how people work. People remember what I said, y'all. The brain is a pattern matching machine. So if the brain sees three things that are wrong, if the brain sees, oh my God, they're doing this queer stuff. Oh my God, they're doing bell hooks and love. And I'm not saying anything's wrong. I'm not taking no sides, one or the other. Oh my God, they're talking Black Lives Matter. Oh my God, this is not history. What is this? If they see that and then they see reparations, the way the mind works, it lumps all that stuff together. It says woke BLM and this queer stuff and this and reparations. The mind will put all that stuff together, even if it don't go together. And that's how they got us. You know how they got us? They got us because they put all that stuff together. Because you know how that works. Because we have people who don't understand that what matters. You all don't have a hierarchy, and it's really easy if you Negroes have gotten tenure somewhere. It's real easy to say, well, it all matters. Everything matters. Everything queer people in the woods living off trees who are black, that matters. That's because you're just exploring theories in your mind. If you're just exploring theories in your own head, you might think that matters. If you actually live Adolf's life, you know that we're wealthless. You know that you know that we're owed reparations. You know that wealth is not income. You know all of that stuff. And if you know that, you're called on to act on behalf of that as the center of what you do. And instead of acting on that, it seems like too many, not all, but too many of our academics have decided that if I dabble in these subjects, what it does, it gets me favor. It gains me favor, right? People are going to talk about it. People are going to accept me. People are going to bring me around. People are going to want to champagne swirl with me. That's the problem. So let's go to another one. This is another one of the quotes from the that article I just put up. The expunged writers and scholars include Kimberly W. Crenshaw, a law professor at Columbia, which touts her work as foundational in critical race theory. Roderick Ferguson, a Yale professor who has written about queer social movements, and Ta-Nehisi Coates, the author who has made the case for reparations for slavery. Gone too is Bell Hooks, the writer who shaped discussions about race, feminism, and class. And let me show you how this fire got sparked. Let me show you how this fire got sparked. The people who say, oh, politics ain't, we can't do nothing. Let me tell you, these people are running politics. From the local to the top. Ron DeSantis is deciding what your children learn. If you're in Florida, if you somewhere else, if you in one of these states where they have said we object to critical, they are deciding what your children learn. People saying we can't do local, we ain't gonna do nothing local, Yvette. We just gonna run for national office. We just gonna run and come collect a whole bunch of campaign money. I see you, sweetheart, but that's not what we do. Not if we want to really move people. So the National Review, the conservative paper, came out early, shot from the bow, and said the stakes in the emerging battle over APAAS are higher than they may at first appear. The College Board is correct to say that that's African American, whatever, APAAS faithfully represents the content of African American studies courses at the college level. That is precisely the problem, they said. Oh, the conservatives are masterful. And the people who represent us just fall on their face all the time. University Studies program, African American Studies, Latino Studies, Asian Studies, Native American Studies, Women's Studies, Gender Studies, Environmental Studies tend to function more as ideological training camps than as academic programs. This was a shot. You got to always watch for the shot. Where the shot came from? Once AP African American Studies moves into use, a full array of AP Studies courses will undoubtedly follow. Those courses will siphon off students from American history and other conventional subject areas, bringing campus-style balkanization and politicization to K through 12. This is what they said. This is before all the stuff happened. This is what they said before that. The College Board's monopoly over advanced placement testing gives it the ability to act as an unelected national board, effectively nullifying state and local control over course content. Let me come out here real quick. Do you see how they always find, let me tell you something about power. Do you see how they always find places where they can have power? They realize that, hey, our education in terms of AP especially is largely being ran by a nonprofit board as opposed to the elected officials. We're going to point that out, and we're going to say we're going to bring pressure to bear with these people. Now show me all these academics who want to do this is feminism and they're doing it. I'm not saying what you right. I'm not good. I'm saying how many of y'all applied that kind of pressure? How many of y'all applied that kind of pressure years ago and said we should study reparations? How many of y'all applied that pressure and said we should study the history of mass incarceration? Instead, you're applying that pressure to queerism and feminism, as if you have to understand what is most important to your people and your community. That's what you study. You don't get a right to go study whatever you want to study. Who told you that? Who told you get a right to just go do what you want to do? The stuff that's most important. Well, the deprivation of life and freedom, that's mass incarceration. Right? The things that really encroach upon us and deprive us of the right to be American, those should be the things that we study most in academia. Instead, people are writing letters about this. Now, I'm not saying go read Bell Hooks, whatever. I'm not saying you can't read the stuff you want to read. Those books are available in the library. I'm talking about what you fight for in terms of what is the fundamental education in school. How come people know about bell hooks, they don't know they broke? How come people know all about queer theory and when they had this whole revolt with the white people and the gays, but they don't know that they don't have no wealth and they're never gonna have none? How come people don't know about reparations? How come it took this movement to say, hey, oh my gosh, wait a minute. It took the 8 ounce movement to say, wait a minute, we don't have wealth? And you're telling me, wait a minute, we don't have wealth, and Yvette and Antonio are telling me that we can't make it up with income. How come it took us to do that? How come nobody in academia did that? We couldn't find but one man who had a video a while ago talking about that. One person, and he wasn't taking it seriously because there were no books. If you were taking that seriously, you should have had a stack of books. Listen, why? We're not academics. I'm not an academic. Shouldn't have taken that. But we wanna act like we wanna be a part. I have a theory. I'm gonna write about this new theory I have. How about you write about the stuff that Du Bois write about? How about you do that? Now I gotta have a theory. You don't understand. I have other things. I have other priorities. What? What kind of other priorities? See what they understood? Let me go back to it. The College Board's monopoly over advanced placement testing gives it the ability to act as an unelected national school board. That's what they realize, and they're taking control. This is power. This is how power moves. You are the unelected national board. We're going to take control of the education, effectively nullifying state and local control over course content by imposing what amounts to a national curriculum. Creating a series of AP ethnic and gender studies courses would be a clever way of introducing leftist identity politics to the very states currently resisting such curriculum. Something like this has already happened with the College Board's AP US History, AP European History, and AP World History courses. AP African American Studies, however, takes leftist indoctrination to a new level. That's what they said. That's what they said. They came out swinging. They came out swinging. They understand power. It is something when you understand power. And I understand why we don't necessarily understand it because we never had it. So if you never had it, you probably don't know how to wield it, right? Like you may not know how to wield power but you better figure it out. They told that boy slimmed all that stuff down. They said, we're going to take all this stuff out. Let me show you. They said, you right. College Board's revised AP African American Studies course draws new criticism. Yeah, they said, you're right. Let's see what changed. Well, the College Board changed in the course. We went for a little bit. Let's just go. Though the nonprofit maintains it did not purge the curriculum of key lessons concerning black feminism and gay black Americans, it also acknowledged a reduction in the breadth of the new framework. I want y'all to go look up the percentage of gay Americans. Just the percentage of gay Americans. And just to try to understand, boggle your mind why that's the highlight of what they're talking about. Of the new units that appeared in the pilot course, those about intersectionality and activism, black feminist literary thought, and black queer studies are not in the final curriculum. The framework also drops its exploration of the origins, mission, and global influence of the movement for Black Lives. Instead, Black Lives Matter is listed alongside Black conservatism as a sample course project labeled illustrative study. Well, I don't really have no problem with that. You can put Booker T up there and you can put the Black Lives Matter up there. And I don't even know if they're concerned to be up there with Booker T. Right? I mean, let's have a conversation about it. And if we're going to have a real conversation about it, family, if we're going to have a real conversation about it, we have to have a conversation about some of the stuff that was going to be a part of of what the College Board had decided in terms of it's some stuff that isn't just problematic for people who are right wing or conservative or Republican. There's some stuff that's problematic for me too. New College Board curriculum puts African diaspora in the spotlight. Who told you to do that? See, let me just say this. At some level, there's no accountability for black academics and what they decide to teach us. Who told you to put the African diaspora in our studies? Who told you that? Like, forget about, we understand. And y'all gave them a role. Y'all gave DeSantis this. It's a gimme. You should have gave him that. You shouldn't have put all this in there. If you had put the history in there and the history of 1865 and 40 acres and all the history and the reparation and took it all the way up to the ADOS movement, there's nothing you can say. You like, that is history. You put all this other stuff in there. And you put the diaspora in there. Like, listen, you have done so much damage. Listen, in terms of academia, y'all have put so much stuff in there that don't go in there. Who told y'all that's what we wanted to learn? Who told y'all that's what we can't? There's no accountability. Who said this is what's most important to us? It represents our interests. Does it represent community? Our community. We over here trying to say, hey, this is ADOS. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. And you're over there talking about we gotta have diaspora at the college board or whatever. So reparations gets thrown out, right? Y'all didn't help things. Let me bring up this part. You know, hold on. Let me come out here for 1 second. I know I was gonna worry about it. Let me come out. One thing we're gonna have to do, family. That's one thing we're gonna have to do. It's just one thing we have to do. There has to be a way to review and approve of what our kids are learning and how they're being pushed in a certain direction as opposed to just reacting, right? What's happening now is that you have academia just reacting to what Republicans are doing and what DeSantis did in terms of him getting the college board to capitulate. There has to be some type of ownership of what we want to be, what we want taught to our kids in AP. Heck, most of our kids, and we're going to get to this, don't even get to AP. So you're not even talking to your kids. See, you got a kid that's going to be in AP. Professor, you got a kid. Our kids are brilliant and can be in AP, but they're getting locked out of AP. You know why? The teacher chooses that. You're not talking about that as much. You're talking about why this stuff is getting shut out. Well, some of it's getting shut out because we never said, because you put it with stuff that shouldn't even be in there. Who voted for the diaspora to be in the AP club, to be a part of what the college board was selecting for? Child, these people just do anything. Let me just go to this. The curriculum, which covers people of African descent who were dispersed globally through the slave trade and other historic movements, aims to help answer two key questions about educational equity and diversity. It's already starting off wrong. Can a widely available college-level curriculum on the Black experience boost Black students to a greater academic success in AP programs where they are historically underrepresented? And can other students, whether white, Latino, or Asian, deepen their personal racial awareness by studying an Africana curriculum? An Africana curriculum. The focus extends geographically and conceptually beyond a traditional introductory African American studies course, instead featuring a global and cross-disciplinary orientation. For example, a student might trace the diverse roots of the actors in the groundbreaking movie Black Panther, whose heritage links, listen to this child, whose heritage links to Uganda, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and other countries, or conduct independent research comparing the variations in visual art motifs seen in Ghana, Haiti, and Louisiana. Child, let me tell you. Rather than create a separate AP subject course, which this should be, the College Board has linked the Diaspora curriculum to its skills-based capstone program. Capstone, which was introduced in 2014, allows students to gain AP credit through independent research projects, extended essays, and oral and visual presentations on contemporary issues. They take a year standardized skills-based exam. More than 300 colleges and universities now grant course credit for students who who earn passing capstone scores. As the new program grows, Morrell hopes those institutions will begin to offer credit specifically for Africana studies. He is already discussing the possibility at Notre Dame. My understanding, this is one of the students of this new thing. My understanding of Africana wasn't what it is now, said Sargent, who is a second generation Grenadian American. I wouldn't have wanted to be identified as African. At the beginning of the course, I would have said I was African American. And I can't put down both African American and Afro-Caribbean on the census. At the end of the day, I say I am of African descent. I know I am proud where I come from. Good for you. God bless you. But we done got ourselves in quite a pickle. And there is no, one of the things that they're right about, this board or whatever you call it, one of the things that they're right about is that there's no accountability. Like, wouldn't you like to go and say, nah, in terms of what they're teaching, we believe that what should be in the AP course should be what is fundamental, or even in the school. Like, but those of you who, I don't want to do no local politics in your school. They're deciding. And not only that, they're deciding in wealthy neighborhoods what these kids learn, so they can learn to not be just to you. So they can not learn about reparations, so they don't have to be just to you at all. Because when you learn about it, you got to do something about it. When you learn you're wrong or your people wrong, it's going to start eating at you. So let's teach you that none of that stuff happened. But like, this becomes a problem. And also, we have a problem. While these people are talking about what should be taught at AP, we're not talking about fewer AP classes, suspended more often. Black students still face racism in the suburbs. So we got less people that have even access to AP. Right? We got less people. Our kids can't even get access to it. Let me show you this real quick. Elijah Goldberg thought he could handle pre-calculus. Now, not calculus. He said pre-calculus. I want you to just say that for it. Pre-calculus. It seemed like they were. He seemed like he handled pre-calculus, 11th grade. His guidance counselor, he said no. It seemed like they were scared I would fail a class, fail a class, and it would make the district look bad. He said it was a big argument. I had to get my mom involved. Frustrated, he instead took the class in the evening at a community college near his home outside Rochester, New York, and earned an A-. He took the transcript to his high school in the wealthy suburb of Brighton and showed it to his staff, proof he had been correct in his own ability. Right? He passed it. Now this isn't even a poor child. This is a child in a wealthy community, in a wealthy suburb. I felt like the administrators didn't believe in me. I was definitely discouraged from taking AP advanced placement classes and getting ahead, said Goldberg. Now Goldberg is an interesting name. So it showed that he may or he may not. He may be biracial. But I'm just saying, I'm telling you, he may or may not be biracial in a wealthy neighborhood, and they still don't want to put him in AP. Who graduated in 2016. In my AP classes, there weren't a lot of us, and we definitely weren't encouraged. It was more just get through and don't fail. Was there a picture of him in the thing? Is that him? No, that's a different kid. Sorry. Okay. Even in generally high-performing suburban school districts, students of color, I hate that, students of color. We're talking about a whole black kid and black kids, particularly black students. Yes, just say that then. Say they face pervasive prejudice when it comes to access to advanced casework, academic achievement, discipline. Figures from the most recent federal civil rights data collection show disparities in every part of the country. So here is my thing, family. Here is my takeaway. If that is the case, right? In the wealthiest communities, you have a hard time accessing. What does it say about the poor communities? It says that we got some kind of problem. Right? If that is the case, why we're not focusing on like access We're not focusing on like access to education. We're focusing on whether or not we can teach queer and feminism. And I'm not saying other things weren't there, because I saw Barbara, what's her name? Oh gosh. There were some people on, I can't remember her name. What was her name? I'm trying to look it up. Because I thought Keonga Yamada Taylor, if she was on that list, she's written some really good stuff about the old black politics. So if she's on that list, I'm just looking at this list of people. So she's written some really good stuff. I've liked some of the stuff Barbara Fields has written, James Cone. So I'm not saying if these people on that list, I'm not saying everybody gets taken off that list. So I don't want to be confused. Or Yvette came out and said everybody was, no, I'm not saying that. There were some people taken off who shouldn't have been taken off. Just like reparations shouldn't have been taken off. But I think academia is leading and they're leading based on academic preferences instead of navigating based on not only where we are and who we are, but they have to also lead with us in mind. And sometimes I feel, and I've said this before, a lot of times I feel like too much of black academia, I say black because it's not just ADOS. A lot of people in academia are not ADOS, are very out of touch with regular ADOS. I told y'all on Twitter, Orlando Patterson, I remember writing him when he's at Harvard, and I said, listen, we need some help. I wrote a bunch of people, we need some help. You know, this thing that was written about us is not true. He wrote me back, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself with this Trump stuff. Y'all don't need reparations. It all smacks of a handout, right? Anybody who writes that to me is out of touch. And nobody says that to any other group that's got reparations, that it smacks of white patronage. That's what he told me. Nobody else says that. There's too many of y'all at these schools who are out of touch in terms of what we need to be reading and understanding about. There's nothing more important for us to read and learn and know than our wealth level. And it can't start and end with the Ta-Nehisi Coates article. That's part of it. I don't have a problem with that being part of it. But if you don't understand that, like there should be a whole wealth curriculum, a whole black wealth curriculum. Then you should have, after you do a black wealth curriculum that makes the case for ADOS, you should do a black income curriculum. You should be able to show how much we earn, how much we spend, so people can see clearly. Now that's something that we fight for. Now I'm not saying the other stuff doesn't come later, but we haven't gotten here yet. You've gotten there. You're in academia. You've arrived. We haven't arrived. And so we have an academic, in a large part, we have an academia that has arrived, and so it doesn't represent people who haven't arrived. And so the argument that y'all are having, in large part, except for the reparations and some other people who deserve to have they really deserve to be heard, right? And they deserve to be read. I read Barbara Fields' book. I enjoyed it. Like, they deserve to be read. But there's a lot you're leaving out. And there's a lot that y'all didn't write about that you should have wrote about. Some of y'all should have went into whole other fields. So now you don't know what to do. Like, your whole thing was queer, feminine, whatever. Now it should not have taken Yvette and Antonio to bring everybody's head and focus on reparations. It should have taken that. Black academia should have done that a long time ago. So I want to say this, I understand what's happening. I understand how you feel. Academic, I understand, I understand the criticism, but what I will say is that, I think a lot of y'all have lost sight of what matters most. And a lot of your work doesn't center on what matters most. Right? And if your work doesn't center on what matters most, you're going to be a target of all this stuff. If your work centers on Black Lives Matter, which can't account for the money that it took and didn't pass any laws, you are going to make yourself a target. And I think Ron DeSantis is extremely problematic. You're going to make yourself an easy target for him. We have a lot of data. It's clear. And I would love to join that fight, right? If we're talking about what to teach kids as it relates to the wealth gap, as it relates to reparations, as it relates to income, as it relates to mass incarceration. And I'm sure some of that was taken down too. But you have to focus on what matters. Because right now we have it's like we have this academic class that is totally disconnected from the rest of us. So, fam, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm going to take a quick break. I will start the phones if you want to call in. If you are so inclined, please feel free to do so. If not, keep it easy breezy and finish your libation. We'll come back and talk about it. It is up to you, right? Hey, it's up to you. But that's just my feeling thing. If y'all feel different, let me know. And during the break, please, if you haven't already, go to joinados.com. Once again, that's join, Join, ados.com. So if you haven't done that during the break, during the easy breezy music, please do that. fam, we are back. We are back. We are back. Y'all got the calls full. I didn't think it was going to be many calls today. I'm going to my first call. I'm going to 206. 206, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
It's 44. It's 40. Can you hear me?
What's going on, fam? I can hear you.
I'm from Washington State.
How you doing? I can hear you.
Oh, I'm doing okay. I was thinking about doing a video on this on my channel because I was bothered by Luke's reaction. You know, Two Live Crew Luke, and I just get the feeling that this dude, he just always needs someone to sample for him. It's not Republicans, it's Democrats. So when he was talking about, when he was complimenting DeSantis, I'm like, well, how bad is this? And when I looked at the curriculum for that course, I didn't have an issue with what was in there. And I get like why people would. Why do we always have to have LGBT stuff and excessive gender stuff? But I didn't really get that from that, because it was about 100 and some topics, like 105 or something. And queer studies was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What I did have a problem with, what was missing, like I didn't even have a problem with the African stuff. We're going to be judges of Africans for better or for worse. And I think showing lit up African empires makes the case for reparations in a roundabout way. But you got to have the Koyi massacre. They didn't have that. They didn't have Devil's Punch Bowl. They didn't have any of that. They didn't have Tulsa. Like, that wasn't a section. They didn't have anything with modern reparations. They didn't even have anything old reparations except for Ta-Nehisi Coates. They didn't have Callie House, Queen Mother Moore, no Adolf. And I'm like, if you don't have that, it's like you said, they're out of touch. They just were looking to filler, put stuff in there.
And so hold on, fam. Hold on. Let me ask you a question, fam.
Educate people on why it's necessary.
Let me ask you a question. So I remember when that show came out. What was that show that depicted like the Tulsa massacre? I remember I think it was a cable show or something like
Watchmen.
that. Yes, there you go, fam. And so I remember all these people, including ADOS, came out and said, I had never heard of Tulsa. Right? I didn't know that happened. I think like Tom Hanks was one of the people like, I didn't know that happened. So if that happens, wouldn't you think that Tulsa would be one of the like, that would like trigger you? Like, Tulsa has to be in here. Like, it has to be here.
And it wasn't. It was nothing. And that's really all I have to say. Other than that, you look good. I don't know if you've been taking your vitamins or whatever, but you look bright.
Thank you. It's probably the light, fam. It's probably the light. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You have a good one, fam. And that's the thing with me, and I think we get to be critical, right? Like, he's saying, like, there's some stuff that was good, I kind of like. There's some stuff, and I wasn't even. And I listen. If this other stuff is just like on the margins, and the bulk of this stuff is stuff that, like he said, is supposed to be in there, I get it. I have no problems. I'm not gonna have no issue with it, right? But when you look at what they stripped away, was reparations and some other stuff that didn't necessarily. Some other stuff should have come before that stuff. Let's just put it that way. Like, there are things in our history that we need people to know, to learn, to understand, that come before that other stuff. Let me go to my next call. I am going now to 512. 512. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi.
Hey.
Yvette, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm okay. This is your long-time follower. So I tweeted a lot about that curriculum. I looked at it. I'm from Texas, so I don't have a dog in Florida's fight. But the whole thing was it was well drafted to a degree. But this is America, and to do all of that study and lump everything in like that and me being a parent of a black son, he wouldn't have benefited from that. He wouldn't have benefited from any of that. And me also being a Christian, I just wasn't, I don't know the right word for it. I was bothered by the whole thing because a lot of American history goes, unaddressed. It just goes, nobody addresses it. Sean Rutherford did the black tax code before. A lot of black people still push against that. But then I see these professors, academics, as you call them. They're all over in Fox News and CNN and all these places. They look good. They look shiny. but they're never talking about anything that has to do with America. They never bring up anything about crime and, poverty, things that we face. They never bring up any of those things. And because they don't, a lot of the black kids don't even really feel like they belong in America.
Mm.
So, they don't even really look at history. It's something that black parents have to push their kids to do. And they would rather read something about, anime or whatever. Now, knowing that we have, black people in America that had to create their own newspapers just to get information out. They don't even look at any of those things unless we push them. And so when you send them to school, they come back and with things you and I know are contrary to our rise in this country.
Well, the one thing I wonder,
they come back to
well, the one thing I wonder, let me say this. The one thing that I just wonder, right? Like, if the reason I tell people to get involved in local politics because you have a school board. The one thing that I wonder is just like, where is our voice in AP? Like, I see what DeSantis's voice was. I see the academics have a voice. I see them. Where is our voice in what gets selected, right? Because I would like some of the stuff that some of the people, the woman I mentioned during the early before I went to break, I would like to see some of her stuff. Kenyaga, what's her name? I can't remember, but I would like to see some of her stuff. Like, where is our voice? Where's our voice in terms of AP? We don't have no voice. Go on, fam. I'm sorry.
Well, we here in Texas we have a voice. Well, I don't even really know. I think it depends on what school you go to. 'Cause I don't know if you're familiar with how Texas is set up.
No, I'm not.
But so because we had this whole Robin Hood thing here, where wealthier districts had to cover like the district near the border.
Okay.
Like El Paso and the border towns, because they didn't have enough funding for the population of kids that they had. So then they started partnering, and a lot of things a lot of funding goes through bond elections and things like that. So not all schools have those AP programs. They would have to either bus to a different school in order to access that. But they, of course, you would have to apply to get all that done.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, my daughter's grown, and so in order for me to make sure she got a decent public education here, I had to have her apply to go to a public charter school. And that's when the capstone program that you're talking about rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the good thing about it is it broke, the way it was set up was you had engineering students, people, students that was interested in engineering. You had some that was interested in art, science, whatever, math. Those programs, once they got into the school, they sort of trained them to that career path. Well, in that, if you scored on the STARS test high enough, you could take AP courses in that subject. So like say maybe a ninth grader would be taking calculus and trigonometry and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, you following what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So the reason I had to put her over there is because I'm poor, and so if she had went to a regular school, she would have been in fundamentals of math in the 10th grade like I would, or she would have been in algebra, introduction to algebra before she graduated and tested low.
Okay.
So that of course that school would get funded. I don't know the whole word for it, but I'm trying to paint out the example. And
you made it clear. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so thank you for that. But so this is what we had to do here. Now, as far as my son, when I put him in public school, I couldn't even work because every day they was constantly calling me, well, he's crying today. Oh, he crawled around on the floor. And mind you, he was like 6 or 7. I mean, 5 or 6 at that time. I think kindergarten. Constantly calling me, and I couldn't even work my job for leaving, going to pick him up, because they suspended him for crawling around on the floor. And so I took him out of that and put him in a charter school that was funded by the state, of course, and then you had Houston Tillotson, College. The HBCU, Houston Tillotson. You had some funding from them, and then, of course, some private, donors around here. Well, it wasn't like a first choice of mine because, the whole uniform thing, everybody looked like him, things like that. I wasn't really into that, but what choice did I have? I had to work,
Yeah.
And so put him there, and he excelled wildly.
Cool.
He's 16 years old, but he has 2 semester clock hours in community college. So when he graduates from high school, he'll have that, the college credits in order for him to test and go to another school. Well, I thought it was beneficial to him, and he enjoyed it. Plus it allows him to do an extracurricular aside from football. And, he can play the guitar, act, or whatever he wants to,
Yeah, absolutely.
He's into.
Yeah.
So and that was my reason for it, because this whole charter school stuff is new to me, because Texas never had any of that.
Well, a lot of these conservative states though put you, and there's different choices. I'm not saying liberal states don't, but put you in a very hard place where you have to make hard decisions.
Right. But it'd be, not to talk about my kids too much, but this whole curriculum thing, our kids don't know about their Black Texas history, which is pretty rich, because you have to keep in mind we've been, we were freed last, and then of course, we just came out of segregation in the 80s, in 1980, so not too long ago, and so if they don't know enough about that sort of history, they don't really need to know what's going on over there in the diaspora or what have you.
Well, I think you make a good point. And I'm gonna let you go because I have a few more calls in there. But I think you make a good point. Like if we're gonna teach history, we can teach American history, and we can teach the state history, right? As it relates to Adolf, before we get to any other stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm gonna let you go.
I know you got to go, but I want to put this out here too. And the reason I wasn't really excited about them bringing up the reparations in that curriculum is because you have too many confusing reparation things. You have these local ones up in Evanston, Chicago. California is the mess. All of those things are confusing. Well, if I'm confused, I know DeSantis and the rest of these people are as well.
Yeah, I think they just
teaching it. I can't imagine somebody that's smoking a cigar, drinking a glass of wine.
I think they could have done it. I think they could have done it without bringing it current. I think they could have done it and said they could have done it and said this is the history. It leads all the way up to ADOS, and here we are now, and without dealing with any of the stuff that's happening in 2020. 2021, 2023. So I think that's how they do it. But I appreciate you calling in, fam. You have a good day, all right?
All right. You.
Absolutely. I think, let me say one other thing. The caller before that mentioned, like, Uncle Luke. He's not my uncle. And I say that because, like, too many of y'all go and take political advice from somebody who used to, like, rap to, like, big booty hoes. Whatever. Like, that's not somebody I take political advice from. And I'm not going to, like, when you congratulate DeSantis on something, this is a man who sent police to people's homes because they voted and he said they should not have, right? He sent the SWAT out. So, like, you got to think about a person who would send out the police, right, to send out, like, the SWAT team to intimidate black voters who thought they had the right to vote. DeSantis Florida had that whole thing about giving people their rights back. He sent the SWAT out to their house. So I gotta look at you a certain way if you are celebrating somebody who over education who has sent SWAT teams out to people's houses who said that they illegally voted and is prosecuting those people. I gotta really side eye you, but I don't have to side eye you because you did big booty whatever. So I ain't gotta do that. I don't look to people like that for my politics. That's me. I'm going to 916. 916. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Eugene Carlisle. I'm from California.
What's going on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I'm glad to know you, Yvette, and you and Antonio. You are the first person last night you said something that I've never heard a black person say in my life. I'll be 85 my next birthday. And I've been studying history ever since I was in elementary school. And I'm so damn mad about what's going on. I don't know what to say. But I wish I could. I got so much to say. I'm not able to really express what I want to say. So if there's any kind of way I could contact you or talk to Antonio, somebody later on, because I heard you talking about Doris Watkins and Claude Anderson. You know, what you said, I agree. You know, what you said.
Not last
I
night.
agree 100%. And so I'm not afraid. One thing I'm going to say this. I'm not going to talk long. I'm not scared. I'll just tell you like this. I'll say any damn thing I want to say because I believe in respecting people. So I'm going to say what I want to say. And I don't want nobody to think I'm a white man either. I'm not afraid to say what I might be wrong, but I'm not afraid to speak up. And that's one thing I can say. And when you talk, you're not afraid to speak up.
No.
And I admire you for that. But I wish in any other kind of way I could contact you or your organization, you know, other than to try to say what I got to say tonight.
Okay,
I got so much to say, but if any kind of way I could contact you later on, or, you know, just give you an idea what I've been through as a black man. And I'm for reparation. I think they ought to give a reparation right now. All the hell that we've been through over all these years, all the suffering that black people have been through, and don't nobody act like they give a damn. Except if I don't care, don't nobody else give a damn. So I want to let them know they don't have to give a damn, but they have not been through what the descendants of slaves been through. Nobody. But they want to get out there and act like they got so much education, they got so much damn knowledge, and they want to throw words around like you could be a man in your word, be a woman in your word, that means more than anything. Stand behind, back up what you say, validate what you say, stand behind what you say. Don't just try to impress nobody. Just be who the hell you are. That's what the descendant of a slave to me. But anyway, I'm not going to keep talking to that.
Okay,
I'm glad you said what you said about what you said about Dr. Morris Walker. And I'm not mad at him. You know, if you're ignorant, you're just ignorant. That's all I can say. You know, your president needs to educate yourself a little bit more. That's what I say.
You can always email
anyway, that's all.
You can always email me at editor@breakingbrown.com. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in. No, I absolutely appreciate you. You have a good one. Somebody in the chat said Ripple's on sale. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all don't. This is what we can. Y'all don't act right. Let me go to my next call. I'm going to 832. 832. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? 832.
Oh, this is Kevin from Houston.
Hey.
Hey, I just want to say first thing, great show. Like, it's very informative. Cause I enjoy what you do, and I wish the best for ADOS. I just have to say, like, it's just really sad that people try to input intersectionality where it doesn't belong. You know, Black history is very unique, particularly ADOS history. It's very unique, and it's a part of the American fabric. And obfuscating it by injecting queer theory and feminist stuff, it only moves the goalpost from where, you know, ADOS informing people so that they understand why reparations is important, you know. Because by attaching it to LGBT stuff, attaching it to, you know, culturally Marxist stuff, it shuts down a part of the population that could be, you know, if they're taught an accurate account of American history, more sympathetic to Black struggle and, you know, for them to, you know, support legislations that, you know, provide direct solutions to the wealth gap.
Well, what you're
You know,
saying
because,
too is if you keep the main thing, it's like
yeah.
and people say, well, what is the main thing? Everybody deserves inclusion, but it's just like we haven't gotten beyond the main thing in America. It's not saying that
Yeah.
what you're talking about shouldn't be aired out. It's not saying that it's fair. It's saying that the main thing is still the main thing because it's the main thing. It's still the thing that impacts us all the most. It's not trying to devalue you. It's just what America is.
And if you look at anybody, with just a cursory knowledge of the civil rights movement, all the victories that were gained there, it was speaking explicitly about the black problem, about disenfranchisement of African Americans in the United States. They didn't do the intersectionality thing as far as sexual orientation or political affiliation whenever it was talking about the 1964 Civil Rights Act or the 1968 Civil Rights Act or the 1988 Civil Rights Act. They talked about black people getting rights and being, having equal protection under the law.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, everybody else started to be covered under those laws. So I think it's very dangerous whenever people try to attach sexual orientation or, political identity with ADOS politics, because it makes it hard for people to pass things that can help, us,
And all of us. It makes it hard to do stuff like if you do something for ADOS, you absolutely include women. You absolutely include feminist women. You absolutely include queer people. So if you're doing something for us, those people are included anyway. And it's just like, let us just do something for you that includes you, that improves your life. Like, don't get ahead of what we're trying to do, because what they'll do, I don't care if it's one class, because they didn't get rid of all the class, but I don't care if it's one class. They will use that as a poison pill and say, this is why this cannot go.
Absolutely.
This is wokeism.
No, absolutely. And, that's all it takes. All it takes is for people to start adding labels and making things too complicated, that people will be like, well, who is this appeal to? Who are we helping,
Mm-hmm.
And it just poisons the whole well. So
Absolutely.
that's all I have to say. I think, what your movement is doing is keeping people on topic, keeping people talking about, ADOS issues, and there are LGBT people that are part of the ADOS community.
Absolutely.
There are, feminists that are part of the ADOS.
Absolutely.
But they are black first. You're black first before you're any of those things.
And you have to fix that first. And that's the thing that has to be fixed first. I think that's what people understand. Like, the thing that has to be fixed first is the thing that tethers you to the bottom economically. Like, we're not saying nothing else has to be fixed, but you got to fix this. This thing that holds you down and means you don't have any wealth, and means that when inflation comes, you be scrambling. You got to fix that first, and that's primary. We're not saying that there aren't secondary things, but we haven't fixed the primary thing. So I thank you, fam. I appreciate you for calling in. You have a good one, all right?
Thank you.
I don't. It's not. It shouldn't be any kind of way divisive. It just is what it is. I am going to 501. 501. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette. This is Q. Quinlan Wallace calling from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm good. Yvette. I was praying. I was praying I was gonna get through the line on this call. I'm a teacher. I'm actually a teacher, and
Oh, good.
this issue is so central to. Like I said, I was just grateful to get through that. But yeah, this topic was so. Like I said, I'm a teacher, and I don't teach history, so I wouldn't be. Long story short, my school. I'm from Little Rock. I don't know if I said where I'm from. Excuse me if I didn't, but my school was going to be one of the pilots for the AD course.
Oh.
And again, I don't teach history.
Yeah.
So
What you
I teach
teach?
English.
What you teach, fam?
High school English.
Okay.
I teach English.
Okay.
High school English, and 9th grade at that. But it's just for me. I want my AD. I teach Little Rock School District. I teach at a district that is 66%. I want to say ADOS. So we being specific, and I'm like, we gotta know the history. So how can I don't want to. I never go into that classroom with the language of a CRT. No. I'm never approaching anything like that. I'm like, look, y'all, it's some history out here. We just need to talk about, you know, your place in this history is ADOS history. So we're one of my students, I'll just be frank, or one of my classes, we were looking at an article, The Roots of Little Rock's Segregated Neighborhood. The student wanted to take the conversation. She said, I don't feel comfortable saying Negro. And I said, the author uses the word Negro specifically. This is not a people of color topic. This is about sex. You know, if we're going to talk about redlining, I don't have to talk about, you know, your feelings or anything. This is why, you know, the neighborhoods were set up the way they were. So we just being honest. And if the article says Negro, because again, at the time, we know that ADOS wasn't a term.
Yeah.
That's
Negro. That's what we
the
were.
author had to use. And I'm like, we're going to be specific. So outside of that, you know, like I said, I'm just trying to keep, you know, have my students see themselves, like I said, as ADOS, but also as I guess in academics, since I'm still in school, the APA, when we talk about citations, and I know this is a little bit off topic of the AP course, but their identification of African American and Asian American, if somebody's doing a study, they're not being specific. So anytime, you know, if somebody approaches, you know, me or someone else with that study, that's been my refrain. I'm like, look, I don't want to talk about the black experience with police. We need to know who, you know, where these black people, you know, you need to identify the black people first, and then you'll find out they're ADOS. And, you know, that's always been my conversation in academia, like, be specific. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's a problem with, like, the APA citation. They don't even, I don't think, see, you know, ADOS in their language, or, you know, Asian America is broad. And I'm like, okay, this is problematic. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't want to keep you too long. I was just grateful to get through the call and let you know. I'm in this classroom, ninth grade at that, but I'm like I said, my priority in that classroom is to, again, I'm English, so I look at this like I have to be defensive of my narrative. You can't take my narrative and make it about a people of color. You can't take my narrative and make it about we're not minorities, we're not disenfranchised. That's a result of several factors. But if we're not going to talk about the factors and the history, we can't talk about the Reconstruction Amendments without talking about ADOS. I'm not talking about CRT. I'm not talking about none of the letters that make people.
But you're saying you're just talking about the history, though. You know what, fam? Let me just say this. I remember bringing up to somebody the Reconstruction Amendments, and they were like, what's the Reconstruction Amendments? Like, if we don't know that basic history, right? Like, how do you move away from that? We can't move away from it because everything that we say that we need and want is anchored in that history, right? And so you can't move away from that history to all this other stuff, I feel. Like, and I'm saying, people saying, well, that's very limiting. Well, that's America. Like, America has limited us. That's what America do. You're not moving away from that very basic. You can't move because our everything that we're advocating for is anchored in that history. So I'll let you have the last word, fam. I'm sorry.
No, you did, Yvette. You brought it. I feel like you brought it home because, in that, like we said, those Reconstruction Amendments, those are explicitly at the. It's funny how perspective changes, but that don't mean it should, because what you're saying is what I'm saying is that these were specific. You know, these laws were protections to integrate. You know, maybe that's the wrong word, but to bring in ADOS into citizenship in this country, and there are repercussions of that, and people who could benefit from that. And we're not xenophobic over here. You know, I teach a lot of students from different backgrounds, but the same way you said, at the beginning of the show, there's a reason why Germany teaches we can't do this no more. And I have to, I feel like it's imperative to be in that classroom. Like, you need to know why America, has a debt, and that's not how I verbalize it to ninth graders, because they maybe go over their head.
Gotta be careful.
It's like, you have to see yourself in your narrative. You got to understand where you are in this story. Like, I feel like having charts up, some of the information that you all share, I'm like, look, just look at the chart, just look at what we know. Like these are the facts, and then you can see yourself in the real narrative, the reality of your situation. But
Exactly.
yeah, like I said, I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you for calling in, fam. I appreciate you. It's good to hear from a teacher. And I think that goes to the thing of how you frame it, like how you frame that conversation. Like, I wouldn't frame it as no kind of critical race theory. I'm just teaching you history. This is just history. This happened. It's in the history book. This is what happened to us in the history book. And I don't have to necessarily say, like, this is what's going to continue to happen. I don't have to do that to let you see, to help you see what happened was injustice. I don't have to do that. It is what it is. I don't have to take it to, I don't have to take it to Derek Bell's interest convergence, which might be, true. Might not. I don't have to take it to that, though, to communicate to you the truth of ADOS history. I don't have to take it to that. So, anyway, I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 703. 703, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I have a couple of quick points, and I'll try and be brief. One thing with this course that I think people need to keep in mind is there is a difference between African American history and African American studies. And I know a few people have said about this, but I think it's really important when you start to talk about this course. Because in studies, they have a little bit more leeway to try and throw in different things. And it's not exactly consistent across the board when you say you're doing a cultural studies on a particular class versus history. I do think it should be rooted in history.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to make sure that point was there. The next point is, I know you made a mention about where are some of our professors and stuff like that. And I know from being an HBCU graduate as well, that we don't have many ADOS, multi-generational, native-born American Black professors in certain departments. And a lot of times I see the African American studies, or it gets that word Africana, which I'm still not sure what that is, because there's African studies.
Me either. I don't know what that. I never knew what Africana meant. I could never figure it out.
I mean, I was always baffled. Now I was an engineering major, so we had Africana studies at my school, and I used to just be like, I don't understand what that is. Is it African?
Yeah, what's Africana? Is Africana just
Black
all
American? Right? Like I don't get it, but But I guess my bigger point is that there has been this movement, I feel like, at least, let's say, 85 is when more Africans started coming over here. To kind of
really post-90.
Yeah, to do this munge of African-American, Africana kind of blending together. And specifically, those studies, when they were set up at schools, when it was African-American Black, it was specifically to study the history of Black American ADOS, that lineage, because we've been here from the beginning, from colonization through founding the country to now, and we're still here, right? And so I think because if you look through that original curriculum that they had put out, there were a lot of people who speak on ADOS issues who are not, and really pushing that merging of it. That's why I think it started a lot with trying to talk about different African kingdoms and not necessarily specifically focused on identifying those people through the slave trade and tracking people and where they went through the slave trade on the transatlantic side, right? So I think that's a factor, too, when you get in there saying, well, where were Black academia? Right, and I think there's that fight going on in Black academia. I know you've done previous shows where you talked about at the Ivy Leagues with the Black Americans fighting the Africans for the spots and slots.
The descendants.
And on a side note with that, I know, and I've been out of high school a long time, I don't know anybody who didn't get into Harvard who was ADOS who wasn't a unicorn, because all those Ivy League schools are unicorn schools. They're looking for the creme de creme to set the next group of world leaders. And so the people I know who got into Harvard, they had perfect SATs. You're talking about people who finished number 2 and 3 at magnet schools or top schools in the country. So I do know and heard of some people who came from some schools in Africa where some of their stats might not have matched up, but yet the label is that black people are kind of getting by and not having as high standards as everyone else. But that's a side note, another thing. And then the other point that I want to bring up is that this course, as they're trying to bring it up, there's a problem in general, I would say, in American school systems when they talk about history, right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things that we are taught in history, especially American history, that's just wrong, right? I'll give a couple examples. Christopher Columbus never sailed to what we know as the continental United States or anything that's a state now. Mm. He came to some islands in the Caribbean, but yet when you start off American history, they'll talk to you about Christopher Columbus. Mm-hmm. They very rarely give you in-depth about Spanish and Portuguese when they actually landed on mainland U.S. before Columbus got here. One thing that also used to bother me, and I went to school in Virginia, is teaching about Native Americans, and there were loincloth and rode buffaloes and ate corn, and that's really how they survived and lived, because you're going to freeze in Virginia if you're walking around the loincloth in October, right? So there is this, and actually there was a whole study done about the ride of Paul Revere and how inaccurate that is to the song that everybody's taught. And so I wonder, when we're trying to break down and do this history, how are we focusing on making sure we at least get some of those events there? Because I can't imagine, if you do a regular American history, any type of African American history course, you're going to have people skewing and obscuring certain facts.
I agree. Right? I agree, and I think that's a fight we should have. And that's why I think the fight shouldn't be over, like, and I'm not saying these issues don't matter, but like, we haven't gotten the basics of American history right. Right? These are the building blocks of a nation. Like, how you understand your history, how you interpret your history, what you know about your true history. What we know, a lot of what we know about history is just propaganda. It's only propaganda.
It is, because for the life of me, one thing everybody says this country was born in 1776. That's when you declared independence. This country was actually formed as we know it now in 1791, when all 13 colonies ratified the new Constitution, right? But we don't go by that date, right? So I just...
we don't know about no Constitution.
So I just... right? I mean, I'm just pointing out idiosyncrasies, right? But I just wanted to kind of just bring some of those factors in when we talk about the course, because I really felt like DeSantis just tried to use this as a point for CRT and talking about making people feel good. But if you're teaching a course, it's about the content of the course, right? So that shouldn't have been a factor. If you're going to be consistent about how you're presenting facts, which is a problem I have with CRT and people saying keeping things the way they are now, because both ways it's inaccurate. And we're not really capturing what happened in this country, right? No. Whether you think this is good or bad, I don't know, but it's real problematic if you're teaching inaccurate history. And
I'll say, you know, America is remedial as a country. I'm sorry, like, in terms of, like, most countries have their basic history down. America has done such a fantastic job of obscuring history that, like, that still has to be a priority. Like, we kind of want to be in the same place in some, like, other countries are, right? And we can go and explore a lot of stuff, like, but we haven't gotten the basics right yet. You can't move on. You got to get the basics right, because we would be a different country if people learn real history. We would be a totally different country if people learn real history, right? And, like, I don't even understand why they called it critical race theory. Like, I understand. I've read Derek Bell's book. I get it, but I'm saying that, like, the history itself leads to certain conclusions. If you can just teach the history, it's going to lead you certain places if you have half a brain. So I appreciate you, fam. Thank you so much for calling in. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Going now to going to 251. 251. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, Yvette. This is Jamar from Alabama.
What's going on?
Nothing much. I'm enjoying the topic of the show. I wanted to. I always wonder why people in the academic community, ADOS people, I wonder why they even got into history if they weren't going to approach history with a purpose, and meaning a purpose for us. I mean, why are you? I don't think, at least I don't know, as far as our black academics. I mean, are they making so much money that it's just worth it for them to go in there and allow other groups to just, use our history as kind of like a battleground for, like a proxy war between white people and the rest of America. And it's really frustrating to see that. The way I see what's going on in Florida with Ron DeSantis, we've talked about it, me and some of my other friends, and it's just, yes, it's an example of how other groups have piggybacked our history because our history is powerful.
Oh, it's very powerful.
And it could be a very powerful weapon. But yes, they have piggybacked our history to kind of fight their battles, but we're also seeing in Florida, it's kind of, our history is kind of being used as like a battleground for a proxy war between, the Florida or Florida conservatives and all the other groups that they want to fight. And we're not even a concern because we don't have academics that kind of stood in the fold for us. So it's kind of frustrating.
It's very frustrating, family. You know what they do? What I found is that academics will stand in the fold as long as you need them to go on TV. Like, academics will stand in the fold as long as they get to show up and do a speaking fee. And I'm not saying all academics. There are some academics that I think do decent work or good work, like decent to good. But
absolutely.
But there are some academics who, and I think there are too many. Let me say that there are too many ADOS academics who will, when you need them to go on TV, the minute Black Lives Matter, the minute there's a protest, the minute there's something, you showing up and explaining it, and you won't stand in the fire, right? So you won't say, hey, no, don't say people of color. This happens to ADOS. This is not a people of color issue. When you talk about the school to prison pipeline that is overwhelmingly ADOS, do not use that language. You will not even stand there and defend language. If you can't defend language, I know you can't defend me from the police or nobody. Like, you can't do the basics of gatekeeping when all of the data supports your gatekeeping, right? And so that's the thing. You want to show up. You want to be on TV. You want to do all the stuff to get you attention. You want to do all the stuff that sells your books. But when it comes time to really say, and academically, I'm not asking you to get on the street or protest. I'm not asking for that. I'm saying when it comes time to say, hey, you're incorrect. When it comes time to sit on the stage with somebody and say, hold on, this is where we park. You're wrong here. This happens to this specific group. This is why it happens. This is how it happens. You won't do the basics to kind of check that. You won't stand, like I say it all the time, we have a problem in this community with people who will walk up to the line but never cross it. Like, that's a problem. We have a lot of people in this community who will walk up to the line because walking up to the line gets you a lot of money. It gets you a lot of speaking fees, gets you a lot of attention. Walking over the line can get you killed. And that's what they won't do. But go ahead, fam. I'm going to let you go ahead.
Well, walking up to the line and walking over the line will do something else. It'll cause you to lose friends that you've made in the academic community that you've coveted. You go to school, you go to college, you're open. Because if you're a poor ADOS, like I was when I went to college, when I went, it was just a different world, and it was kind of exciting. I grew up in Alabama or whatever. So I go off to college, and I went off into the military, and it's this whole new world, and you kind of, want to see yourself as a part of that. So what can happen is you'll get defamed by that, right? You'll get you want to be a part of that, but what no one tells you is that you have to give a piece of yourself, and people don't want to give that up. And what I've learned is in my lifetime, because I have children, nieces, nephews, I don't have the right to do that. My love is to my people first. And if that means I have no friends on the other end, then that's my fight. Our ancestors, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they died. We can give up friendships with white folks who want to use or who want to look over our justice claim.
Absolutely.
That's a small sacrifice, and we need to do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But I
don't think that a lot of us understand that sometimes you're born into a fight. Right? I mean, sometimes you're just born. You didn't do nothing. It don't matter that. It don't matter. Like, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out where they fair. It don't matter if it's fair. Like, stop telling me what ain't fair. Like, or what you were born into, or I should be able to. You're born into a fight. You got to pick up something. I mean, like, just what it is. This is what you're born into. Other people who came before us were born into a fight. Some of them didn't fight, but we're here because of those who did. So you have to want to be one of those who did. That's job one, right? So I'm with you, fam.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I like to say before I get off of that, I really appreciate everything that you and Tone have done, and y'all were some brave voices. You guys.
Thanks,
I'm pretty sure you guys understood some of the greater, academic and political world. We're going to come after you guys, and I thank y'all for taking those slings and arrows, and it's time for us to do it as well. Do it on your job, do it at work. I'm not saying that we should go out and look for fights, but we shouldn't shy away from them. So thank you.
And smart fighting. Appreciate it, fam. No, thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
I hope I can talk to you later.
All right, now appreciate you. And smart fighting. It's just like, you don't have to do anything. Like, sometimes we get caught up in that too. When you tell somebody to fight, all of a sudden they finna get fired. Like, because they don't know how to just be like, well, I understand, and if I want to make sure I'm communicating with you, I'm confident in the way what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is that the data doesn't support what you said in terms of people of color versus, and I don't prefer that term. There's a way to do it where you stand your ground and you don't like, if somebody gets pissed off, then that's your fault. You internalize it. I didn't say anything aggressive, but we won't stand our ground on our own politics, and then we wonder why the politics don't turn out good, right? That's the investment. That's what it is. So I'm gonna go to my last call. It's gonna be my last call, fam. I'm going now to 912. 912. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Sorry, everybody else. It's 912.
Hey, Yvette, this is Bernard.
What's going on, Bernard?
So I'm watching this thing, and I'm synthesizing some of the causes. I hear them, and I think I might approach this at kind of a different angle, and view this as a missed opportunity. Because what I'm trying to think about, like, for one, how long did they have this class in the works? Who were the academics or academicians who influenced this curriculum? And how come they couldn't go back to the drawing board and change it? Because I'm kind of like, well, I'm looking at how quickly College Board responded to these criticisms from the conservatives, especially the DeSantis. In which case, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, well, damn, that was really fast. Why can't the people trying to influence that curriculum or trying to push that course kind of go like, okay, wait a minute, if you're going to completely strip the course, maybe we need to not implement this course right now. And these academics or whoever came up with this should be kind of going like, maybe we need to rethink this Pan-Africanism and intersectionalism and all this stuff that we were trying to do, and just go back to the drawing board and think about who we're actually trying to influence. Because I was blessed to go to a mostly black high school back in Savannah, Georgia, called Herschel V. Jenkins, where we had a decent magnet program that I would say was maybe like a soft majority black, even within the AP classes. So I got to take a lot of AP classes. And what I can tell you is that what we got to remember is that these classes are ultimately elective. Of course, you have to take them if you want to get access to fairly selective universities, which I did get to go to as an undergrad. Like I always highlight, I went to Emory University as an undergrad, but ultimately they're elective. And as you highlighted in your commentary, a lot of black schools do not get that much access to AP classes. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, this class is going to be an elective at mostly suburban or like wealthy urban high schools that are full of white people and Asians who might, elect to take this course. And I have the opinion that those who elect to take this course, whether it be in Florida, Georgia, New York, wherever, these are going to be the whites that probably already are attuned to things like this queer theory, LGBT, intersectionalism and stuff like that. This is a generation that's on Twitter all day long. And all I can think about is how when I went to college, even these so-called white liberals and leftists, they did not know ADOS history. They knew about LGBT, gender, all that stuff, but they did not know a lot of the specifics. If you ask them about Tulsa or Wilmington or any of that stuff, they will not know it.
They still don't.
Like, so what are we doing trying to...
Well, I think, Bernard, we don't understand building blocks. Like, in my life, building blocks. Like, you think about math. The first thing you learn in math is the numbers. Then you learn arithmetic. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 minus 1, 0. Like, you learn the building blocks.
Bingo.
Like, if you, like, to me, because we don't understand, people don't understand, this isn't a course that's been around 30 years or something like that. This is new. So, I think the building blocks, when you figure out that people didn't know anything about Tulsa, the building blocks is what you put in there. Let's build in that kind of bedrock knowledge of ADOS history. And that should have been like, you gave DeSantis like a win. Like, how do you give DeSantis a win? And he has you on your heels, and he's going to use that when he runs for president to say, I stood up against the woke people.
And that's why I wanted to ask, like, how long has this been in the works? Because have the people who designed this not seen what's been going on for the past 2 years? Like, even when you look at all the queer theory and all that stuff, like, there's been something that conservatives have been targeting heavily. Like, I think I just saw a speech where Trump, who don't even like talking about this stuff, was giving some speech about how if he's elected, he was going to pass some legislation, I guess some anti-trans legislation. I'm like,
I heard that too.
Well, since when does Trump talk about trans stuff? I was
well,
like,
that's because
he must be feeling
but
the
you know
pressure
why?
from the GOP to target that.
You know why it doesn't poll well? Like, that's one of the things, trans rights and things like that. That's one of the things that doesn't poll well amongst Democrats or Republicans. So he's following the polling. And then I don't know what Democrats are going to do, but he's following the polling because that never polls good, right? So he's just following the polling.
Yeah, he's following the polling, and he knows that done bubbled up and it's on fire on the conservative side. So I'm kind of like, anybody involved in designing this curriculum had to know that putting, honestly, any LGBT stuff in this curriculum was going to be some poison pill. Like, how could you not know that? So I'm wondering, like, did they hastily throw this together? And if they hastily threw this together in College Board, because even though it's a nonprofit, I do think, I was thinking about this, I was like, why were they so quick to take all this stuff out? And then I realized, like, oh, they want to implement this at as many states as possible, because I think there's a lot of infrastructure around, like, training different teachers to teach the AP course, making money from the tests, like all types of stuff. They want to make sure that they don't care about the quality. Like, they want to get this course to as many states as possible, because I'm also thinking about the fact that what people got to realize is, like, a lot of people taking these AP classes, like, there's little incentive to even take this AP class, because I'm telling you right now, most colleges ain't taking this credit. they're not going to validate this credit. They kind of just going to look at your transcript and go like, oh, you did the AP capstone thing? That's nice, because a lot of colleges are not even taking the AP U.S. history credit anymore because they think it's too cursory the way that U.S. history is taught in high school, even the AP curriculum. So I'm kind of like there already is little incentive to take this course because nobody's going to get college credit for taking this class. So I'm kind of like, you could at least do it right and come up with a curriculum that would, benefit ADOS and black people as a whole in America by influencing the few white people that elect to take it.
Well, yeah, and by giving them as much basic history as possible, right? I people like if it's one course that's outside, like give them as much basic history as possible. All the slave riots, all the rebellions, all the lynchings, the lynching memorials that we have now, thanks to EJI, give them the most a basic bedrock ADOS history that you can, because that builds the case for reparations. Like if you just talk about everything that was taken, all the books we have about what was stolen from us, like give them all. That's just history. It happened. Don't tell me it's not history. It just happened. Like it happened. It's real. It
would have been so easy to defend.
Yeah, it's like
it would have been so easy to defend. It's like, no, this is just stuff that happened and that happened to black people. Like,
yeah, and I'm not even telling you.
Versus like,
yeah, I'm not even telling you what it means. I'm just telling you that all this stuff happened. I guarantee you there will be kids like, oh my God, I didn't know this. I never had to. Like, you go through all of it methodically, but that's what it is. That's what it is, fam. I don't understand why, like, if you're building a history case, you don't just use that case to build a case reparation.
Because it's like Becky from Orlando. I'm sorry, Becky from Orlando. Maybe the 1 out of 2 people who are gonna sign up for this course. Because ain't no incentive to do so. Probably on Twitter all day, so probably sees intersectionalism and queer theory and all that stuff all day long.
And let me tell you something else.
What you don't see is ADOS all day long.
No, and let me tell you something else. I'm gonna tell you, if 98% of that class was good history, it's like I told other college. You put 2% queer theory and whatever you're poisoning it, because that's a target. That's really it's bad. It's a bad way to start this off, and it's bad history. Like it's bad strategy too. If you're gonna think about DeSantis, like make it 100%. Don't even let none of that in right now. We're not at that moment, right? And I don't think people understand that we're not at the moment for you to try to do what you're trying to do. I don't care if it's 1% of your curriculum. It's a poison pill when you're dealing with somebody like DeSantis, who did use it and leverage it and got it changed to what it looked like it should have been before.
I think one thing, I just really feel that at this point, like, if ADOS, if these academics are serious about this, which I think some of them are, and I think some people amongst them, like you said, just want to swirl their wine glass, like, oh yeah, we did the AP African American History of Studies or whatever. Like, if they were serious, I think they should say, like, we're going to start advocating for the College Board to just go ahead and withdraw this class and not implement it this cycle. And we're going to go back and we're going to figure this out.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out. We'll just take it away. Yeah, it don't got to be there. It don't have to be there this year. It don't have to be there. You gone this long without it. Like, it don't have to be there this year. I agree with you.
Yeah, because as quick as they were willing to change it, it's like, well, you can take it away too. Let's go.
Let's just reevaluate some things. And I think you should have reevaluated that. I don't think we're serious enough about our history to understand it. Like, our history is back there. We haven't come all the way up here to where you trying to be. We back here. Now, I understand the people you deal with, y'all can talk about all that or whatever. And I don't even know if you should because of what's the priority. But I think you have to be careful. Even in bills, they call it a poison pill. People will put stuff in bills on Congress for you to make it to where you can't vote for the bill. Yeah. So, I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in, but no, I appreciate you. But no, I get it. It's wild stuff going on around here. Thank you, fam.
All right. Bye-bye, Yvette.
Bye-bye. All right, fam. That's going to be it for our call. Sorry if I didn't get to your call. I appreciate you. But we had a lot of calls. I didn't expect that many calls about that today. I just think that, I just feel like, come on. And I'm not, child. I just really, really feel like these people gonna jump at a lot of stuff, and we have to figure out what we want to teach people, and not just our people. We got to figure out we ain't the ones. What did Toni Morrison say? Is white America has got to deal with some issues, and I don't think we are away from that. And I think anything we do is an opportunity to teach them about us and what happened to us at the hands of them. Not this other stuff. No, until we get what we're all, we have to be singular in our focus. That is my point of view. I don't go to Yvette, don't worry about it. No, I'm just saying you have to be very singular in terms of what you got to get done. And if the main thing that impacts the group is a lack of wealth and resources, we have to be very singular about how we teach that and how we craft that. And I don't think we have enough academics who are willing to be very specific in terms of the way they teach it, in terms of the way they research, and in terms of the way they publish, ladies and gentlemen. So that's where I am. Fam, please, go to joinados.com if you have not done that. We got some stuff we're doing with the OMB. We're trying to get this ethnicity, American Descendants of Slavery. You know, our first conference, y'all know that was claim the name. We're trying to come full circle with that and have this be our ethnic designation. And so please, if you haven't gone to joinados.com, please do that, family. And so we can claim the name when you're tweeting. Please use hashtag claim the name, that hashtag, so that we can get attention to this. And you know, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're working on. We made, as most of you know, we made our presentation to the OMB, and we've been on this path for at least 6 years. When we called out flat blackness and said it doesn't make sense, we've been talking about this for a very long time, and this is the opportunity for us to actually make it happen, and not just be talking about something or advocating for something, to actually make something happen. So if you want to go to adosfoundation.org and click on newsroom, our presentation to the OMB is there, and join ados.com if you want to help us get that designation at the OMB. So please do that, fam. That is it for today's show. I will see you all. What day is today? What is the day? Wednesday. If you're on Patreon, I'll see you tomorrow. If not, I will see you all next week, a week from today. Okay, keep it easy breezy. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I will see you all later.